happened to me, the trauma was so big that I couldn't even admit it to myself.
بس بدي أعرف أكثر شوي، هل أنت ذهبتي سابقا إلى معالج نفسي؟
I probably tried. If you ask me anything, I'll probably answer yes. I've tried that too. I had to decide whether I wanted to die or to live, and because there is this fear also inside of humiliation, of shame, of all these kind of things that are very difficult to overcome. And usually, the deeper the trauma is, it means the more pain and the more damage.
أهلا بكم مشاهدينا في هذه المقابلة الخاصة مع لاعبة التنس التونسية سليمة، والتي بدأت النجمة التونسية السابقة مشوارها كلاعبة محترفة للتنس عام 1999 واعتزلت عام 2011 وحصلت على أفضل تصنيف لها فردي في المركز ال75 وعمرها الآن 46 عاما، وصنفت كأول لاعبة عربية ضمن أفضل 100 لاعبة تنس. قبل أن نطرح الأسئلة سنستعرض على المشاهدين قضيتك، وهي أنك تعرضتي للتحرش والاغتصاب في مرات متكررة من قبل ريجيس كاماري مدربك السابق، وهو الآن في السجن بقضايا اغتصاب متعددة. طبعا بالبداية خلينا نحكي ما الذي دفعك سليمة للحديث عن هذه الحادثة اللي تعرضتي لها، يعني بعد كل هذه السنوات. طبعا نحن صرنا بنعرف انه حضرتك تعرضتي للاغتصاب كان عمرك 12 عاما.
Yes, it has been a long process, and I know that this happened a long time ago, but to be honest, I think that the full completion and overcoming this very big trauma happened only about, if I want to talk about 100% completion, happened only about a year and a half ago. Until then, it was probably maybe around, as an image, something around 70% maybe, which is already very good. But when this happened to me, the trauma was so big that I couldn't even admit it to myself. And that's what we do in order to survive, because it's so difficult for the mind. It is so difficult to process when you're a kid, that the only way to do is to put it on the unconscious mind and to survive. And happened a moment in my life around 2008 where I had to decide, where I had very big depression, and I had to decide whether I wanted to die or to live. And I chose living, but I didn't choose to live halfway. I chose to live fully, and that's why I chose to go through this process. And I really wanted to overcome it fully, which happened only about a year and a half ago. So the truth is, why telling the story now, and I had a lot of people asking this question, and I really want to make it clear, is that, of course, about a couple of years ago, I told my family, and I was in a good place. I was strong enough. I overcame it, as I said, around 70%. So I was living more than good enough. And I said this to my parents, to my family, to the close people. I shared this abuse, but then I never said it publicly. And for me, it was okay at that time. But then I met this amazing man, that's professional, that actually helped me with his fantastic method to overcome the rest of the trauma, because the last 30% are the deepest ones. And usually the deeper the trauma is, it means the more pain and the more damage, the more algorithms there that are actually operating in a very toxic way, and a lot of protection mechanisms that are developed. So the last 30% were the most difficult ones, and meeting him and working with him, I managed to achieve that in less than a year with a fantastic method and tools that I haven't seen anywhere else. And God knows that I have tried all the other therapies and techniques all around the world.
إذن هذا الشخص هو كان طبيبك النفسي؟
هو يسمي نفسه consciousness designer. هو يشتغل على unconscious and how to develop consciousness about the unconscious. So basically working on the traumas and working on every limitations that we have inside ourselves because of these traumas, these protection mechanisms, these things operating from the unconscious. And we keep saying, why is it these things keep happening to me? Why the situation keeps happening to me? It's these patterns, that are imprisoning us in a way, and creating situations in our life that are imprisoning us. So once I tried and experienced and developed this unconscious and used that technique that worked amazingly well, magically well, actually, I decided, I had the realization about a year and a half ago that I really wanted to create a company that I created called Unus Mundus for All, One World for All. with Fernando Cavaler, this professional, in order to actually offer and share this method, because I've always been someone who is very passionate about psychology. So when I tell you I tried everything in my life, I invested time, energy, and money in this, it's really true. And coming to this, meeting this professional and experiencing his methods was something absolutely incredible. So we opened that company, and in order for me to, for the people who ask why now, again, I'm getting to this answer, is that even though I said it to my family and to close people around, I launched the website of this company in order that
الويب سايت رح نحكي عنه لاحقا سليمة، بس بدي أعرف أكثر شوي. هل أنت ذهبتي سابقا إلى معالج نفسي؟ يعني وقت بداية الحادث لما حصل معك، هل جربتي أنت بعمر صغير تروحي على معالج نفسي أو كانت هذه أول تجربة لك؟
لا, as I said, I tried many therapies and many techniques. I probably tried, if you ask me anything, I'll probably answer yes, I've tried that too. So I've tried everything so far. From the age, I tried to start working on myself at the age of, let's say something like 27, 28. And at that time, I still did not want to remember that I've been abused. At that time, I didn't want to tell myself that I have been abused. For 25 years in a row, I shared it with no one, and not even with myself, in fact. I didn't want to admit it to myself because it was so painful. And because there is this fear also inside of humiliation, of shame, of all these kind of things that are very difficult to overcome. So the first therapist, and I thank her very much, was Mélanie Maillard, and she's the one who took me to a place where I could start talking about it. And the first time I opened that door, I was like 28 or something, and I remember spending 48 hours on my couch in the dark crying so much. It was painful. So from that day, I started to work on myself and tried all the techniques, all the therapists, everything, until I met Fernando Cavaler.
طب نحن يعني المغتصب تعرض أو حاليا هو في السجن بحكم 10 سنوات مع شهود 20 ضحية. هل تعتبري أنه كانت هذه الحكم كان عادلا بالنسبة لهذا الجرم الذي فعله؟
It's very difficult to say, you know. It's extremely difficult to be the judge of anything like this. And I am very, very sorry for all the victims in this case, because I know how hard this is. You know, I talk from experience. So I know how this can affect the life entirely. It did affect mine until I took this path to overcoming this. But today is not really about, the truth is, the mistake not to do in this work, really, when we have been victim of abuse, is to think that, of course, the first step, the most important first step to overcoming this is to talking, is to expressing that part and not stay, you know, with the fear of shame and the fear of imprisoning ourselves inside and being very shameful and not being able to express it. So the first step is to express it, then also to fight, and then maybe putting him in jail. But that is not the end of the process. We are not healed, or we don't overcome trauma by doing that. This is a very important first step. But in fact, the work starts when he goes into jail and we said and we expressed. That's exactly the start of the inner process to overcome the trauma inside of us, in fact, and not the end.
نعم. طب برأيك ما الذي يمكن أن نفعله قبل حدوث هذا الأمر، يعني الاعتداء الجنسي سواء على الأطفال أو المراهقين؟
Well, that's what I was saying. The reason why I said it today, why I came out with it today, is because how can I tell people? I believe in leading by example. How can I launch a website and a company to prevent abuse and to help people to overcome abuse on a collective level? That's why I want to do it. I want to share this for a collective, and that's why a company. How can I do that when I didn't share myself, my story on a public and collective level, in order to say, hey, there is no shame to have. In fact, this is overcoming this, it becomes power and empowerment, and there is no shame, but there is a lot of pride. And I had to say it myself, because that's what I want people to do. That's how I want to inspire. That's the door that I want people to open for themselves. And that's why it was impossible for me to launch this company in order to prevent abuse and to help overcoming abuse on a collective level without me first giving the example and sharing my story collectively.
طب حضرتك استمريتي باللعب بعد تركك للمدرب اللي قام بهذا الفعل، واستمريتي باللعب لوحدك. أتوقع أن انتقلتي من مدينة بوردو إلى لندن. كيف قدرتي انك تكملي لوحدك وتوصلي للمراكز اللي حضرتك وصلتي لها؟
This is a very good question, and this is a very overwhelming question to me too. Well, when you have been abused by a coach from a very young age, from 12 years old, and you're far from your family and you're alone without any emotional support concretely around you and feeling totally unsafe, and yet still wanting to become a champion, because I thought to myself, you know, now that this happened to me, I might as well succeed. My parents were divorcing. I was very close to my grandfather. He died. I saw my parents and my family into big depression, and I knew and I could feel as a kid that every time I was winning, it brought them a little bit more joy, it made them a little more happier. And I was thinking that maybe that will allow me to get more love and more attention from them and things like this. That's how kids really thinks, you know. So I really wanted to succeed. And but in the same time, I couldn't trust anymore. I lost total base of trust on anyone, really. So I decided to practice with myself, and I achieved a very high level of discipline. I worked extremely hard, probably harder than what I was supposed to do. And somehow I made it. And the message here, there is something that is very overwhelming. The message that I want to give people about this is that all my life I thought that I was very weak, that I was coward, that I was really an underachiever because I couldn't say no. Because every time we freeze when this happened to us, because it is a trauma, and that's how trauma operates. And all my life I carried that shame, and my level of self-esteem and self-worth and self-confidence was extremely low because of it. And I thought I was weak until 2 years ago, where I really understood that in fact I was extremely strong and I was a warrior. And in order to actually overcome something that bad and still become the first Arab woman to make it through these circumstances, I realized that in fact that little Seliema, who had all that, is actually in fact a warrior. And I understood how strong I was, in fact. So I want to tell everyone, really, this is very important. This is what was the hardest for me. So I want to tell every woman, or even it happens to men too, to tell them that you are not weak. It doesn't only happen to weak people. It happens to everyone.
سليمة، أنت حضرتك ذكرتي أنك أول امرأة عربية بتعترف بهذا الشيء. طب نحن هلأ شفنا أنه اسمك تصدر وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، وكان في ردود أفعال مختلفة من جميع الجهات ومن جميع الدول، منها تعاطف معك ومنها كان ضدك وكان رافض لاعترافك. كيف تتعاملي مع هيك ردود أفعال؟
This is again the best question. Yes, I think I had, again, if you put an image by percentage, probably over 80% of very positive reviews and people who were very inspired. And I think that it helped already a lot of people in order to see that, yes, we can actually, today I'm a successful woman, a strong woman, a powerful woman. And that's exactly the example I want to give. I want to tell them, you know what, this can happen to you, but it's not going to stop you from being powerful and to be empowered and to be successful and to be happy and to thrive. So that's the message that I wanted to spread, and I think it went very well. Now the others who do say very, let's say, negative things, I do really not today. That's exactly the path that I did, and that's what I overcame. It is that I am not scared of what they're going to say, because I don't believe at all that there are people who are mean. I really believe that there are people who suffer. And it's very important for people to be negative like this, because I tell you what happened, and a lot in Tunisia, and I'm extremely grateful for what happened. And it was very touching. It touched me very much. And the people who were actually negative in their comments, what they did is they gave the opportunity to all the reporters to answer them, and in fact to defend and to support the cause. They supported me, but through me, they supported the cause, and they answered questions about why talking, why this, why now. And in fact, it's a message for all the other women who are scared to talk. So these who were negative and started saying all these negative things gave the opportunity to all the others, like 80%, to in fact answer the questions and support me and the cause and all the other women who can talk. So we need these negative comments too. Not a problem.
نعم. طيب بالحديث عن ردود الأفعال، كيف كان رد فعل أسرتك لما عرفوا بالموضوع قبل سنتين فقط؟
It was very hard. It was very hard because, of course, you know, they all see me like, you know, strong and a professional athletes. And I succeeded in broadcasting in one of the biggest channels in the world in 2 languages, in Arabic and French. I am a Lacoste ambassador. I have a great sports complex in Tunisia, and everybody would see me like, the girl who is like almost, had nothing wrong and life was so easy for her. When I said it to the close people and to my family, they were in shock. And one thing that really hurt me a lot before is that when this thing happened, when he went to jail about 15 years ago, and of course my family knew that I was practicing with him, and there were many cases of abuse, they called me and they're like, oh my God. And even people close to me, they said, oh my God, thank God you are very strong. This didn't happen to you because you are very strong. And that was another horrible, horrible message unconsciously, where I was already thinking, I am weak, I am a coward. And they were telling me indirectly, if that didn't happen to you because you're strong, but I knew it did happen to me. So I was like, again, thinking, okay, wow, I'm so weak. And that was, again, another hit on my self-confidence, self-worth. So it was extremely hard. And the more I was leaving this inside, imprisoned in me, and the more it was killing me as a poison and killing my self-esteem. And that's why it is important to talk. So, and that's why I'm talking today. If I'm talking on the collective and public level, it's because I'm a public person. I opened a company to help the collective. That's what I want to do. That's my purpose. And in that case, I have to talk publicly about my story too, because we have to lead by example.
طب بالحديث عن إنجازاتك بالتنس، ما هي التحديات اللي واجهتيها كرياضية وكامرأة عربية في الخارج؟
Well, the hardest thing is, first of all, before even starting to talk about abuse, is for a little girl at 12 years old from Tunisia, 35 years ago. It's not like today, living by herself, and also following a path that not one Arab woman before made. So I didn't have a model. I didn't have an example or how to do it, or I didn't have a roadmap at all. I just left at 12 years old because I had to, because I was already the best in my country. And if I wanted to be professional, I had to go to another country. And that by itself was a huge challenge, to be by yourself at 12 years old, as in coming from an Arab country 35 years ago. It's the total unknown, and by itself was already traumatic, really. So that's the first and the biggest challenge. And on top of that, of course, there is training very hard. Becoming a tennis player is not easy. It's like the army. It's like training 6-7 hours a day, competition, stress, losing, winning by yourself. And on top of that, of course, the abuse that was quite dramatic and happened on a very deep level. So altogether was already extremely challenging, plus the whole career on itself. And, at the time, again, coming from an Arab country, there were also a lot of challenges to overcome. So it wasn't easy. That's why all my life, I kept thinking that I was weak and an underachiever because of the abuse, because it hit my self-confidence. But I realized 2 years ago, on the opposite, how strong and how much of a warrior I was. And today, that's why I want to share.
طب بالحديث عن الرياضة في الوطن العربي، كيف ترين مستقبل الرياضة النسائية تحديداً؟
Well, I think that it is improving very much. To be honest, after me, there is Jet was doing quite amazing, really, one of the best players in the world in one of the most difficult disciplines, which is tennis. Malik Jaziri also came in tennis, Usama Malouli in swimming. And then we have like a lot of other athletes who are showing up. There is Mayar Sharif from Al Masr for tennis. So I really think that now we have some really strong vehicles, and the door is open, and now there are more doors open, and the door become bigger and bigger. It's becoming a garage and a motorway. So I really believe that a lot of beautiful things are happening in the Arab world, and that's why it is
والنساء تحديدا سليمة.
For the women, I think it's very important to say that in order to thrive in anything, in sport, of course, it's a great platform. In anything, especially in sport, the first thing that we need is self-confidence. It's self-worth. It's liberation. It's being able to actually act in a free way. That is empowerment. So what we need for women in order to thrive is empowerment. When we say empowerment, we say freedom from abuse, whatever that is. There is not only sexual abuse. That's why I created this company. It's not only for sexual abuse. There is physical abuse. There is emotional abuse. There is mental abuse, psychological abuse. So basically, every kind of abuse will affect our self-worth and our self-confidence and our way to thriving and to be empowered. And I think that's the biggest message for women today. We have to liberate ourselves from all these limitations, that could come from the mind, from the society, from whatever, because that's the only way to empowerment. And how can we be champions if we're not powerful and empowering?
نعم. لنتحدث عن اللحظات السعيدة. ما كانت هي يعني أسعد لحظاتك سليمة بمجال الرياضة؟
I'm going to be honest here. Of course, I had a lot of great experiences in my career, and I don't know if somehow deep down I was always a joyful person, even though I was totally broken and destroyed, without a doubt. But there were always still this desire to be joyful and to laugh, and I had some good friends and we had some good fun. Even though at the end of the day there is always this very big weight that was inside of me, of course. But I had many great moments. I think I was very, very proud the moment I got into the top 100, especially without a coach or anyone, and knowing what I had gone through and being the first Arab woman to go into the top 100 without anybody knowing what I was going through. And that was a very, very, very deep and strong moment for me that I shared by myself at the time. But being the first remains forever, being a pioneer, and that for me was extremely important. That's why the same thing in this action I'm doing today. I'd like to also to be a pioneer in something else, in a cause that is very important and dear to me.
هل توقعتي لما صارت الحادثة معك، هل توقعتي إنه ما حدا يصدقك إذا أنت خبرتيهم بالبداية؟ هل كان هذا أحد مخاوفك؟
This again is part of the reasons why women don't say anything and don't talk. But the message here, that's why I say that today I talk from a place where I completed the process, where I feel empowered, where I am not ashamed of what I'm saying, but I'm proud of it. This little Seliema who got hurt, who got broken, this vulnerable part inside of me, I'm proud of it today, because we say we bloom from our wounds. That vulnerable part is the powerful part. So I talk about it, and the only way to liberate ourselves, let's be honest, is the only liberation that is true, is about the fact to keep saying or keep doing whatever we want without, especially if we disturb, especially if you are going to disturb, if we're going to be judged, if you're taking the risk of being judged, disturbing, to being ashamed, to being rejected, to being anything, abandoned, and still doing something that is aligned with ourselves, is true liberation. And that is empowerment. So that's what I'm saying today. If I have to stop every time where I'm going to disturb someone or because somebody is going to judge me, then I'm not empowered. So the message for everyone is, you know what, follow your heart, go for it. And if it disturbs the outside, it's a good sign. Still go for it.
ممتاز. طيب نحكي شوي عن نصيحتك للاعبين الشباب الطموحين بمجال التنس تحديدا.
Well, advice, I don't know if I'm in a position to give an advice, but an aspiration or something that I would want to share is that if I had one wish today, really, one, and that's why I'm creating again this company, Unusmundas, I created. If I had one wish, if I could come back, I would like to actually have all these tools and this real method in order to show me preventing abuse simply, or overcoming abuse, is simply about developing self-worth and self-confidence and liberation and power inside of us. I wish I had that method. I wish I had someone to teach me that from a very young age, because not only I would have probably not been abused, because I would have prevented that, but by preventing that, I would become a much stronger person and much powerful person, and I would have been probably a much better tennis player, and more importantly, would have been a happier tennis player.
هل تعتقدي إنه أصبح هناك تحركات؟ تفضل.
So advice would be, in fact, to tell everybody it's important to work on the tennis, on the physical, on the technique, on the shots, but the most important is this base, is to actually work on your psyche, on this psychology, on this developing this consciousness in order to become very strong and have this self-confidence and a really good self-worth.
هل تتوقعي أو تري أنه أصبح هناك تحركات كافية لدعم المرأة بهذا الخصوص أو المراهقات اللواتي تعرضن للاغتصاب؟ هل يعني تجدين أن هناك تحركات وجمعيات تساعدهم وتساندهم في هذا المجال؟
Again, a very good question. This is an opportunity for me to say that I really think that what I'm doing today, I would love many other people to do it, because this is really the way to showing where we need to evolve more and what we need to emphasize on. For example, what I would like to do is to prevent abuse in sports institutions, is to create platforms and to create ways in order to help most of the youngsters to follow that path and to start taking care of these very important aspects inside of us as a human being in order to thrive. And that does, even in 2023, do not exist enough. Yes, of course, I've done the tour of the world and so many institutions and so many, trust me, I've done all the research that is necessary to be done. And today, every program, let's say, I'm not saying that they are bad, but I'm really saying are not complete. And in sports institutions, I don't think that they emphasize enough on that. They're going to take care of the massages and physiotherapists and coaches and trainers and sponsors and all that, which is all important too. But I don't think that they really do put great importance on the platform to help athletes and youngsters to take care of this very, very, very important human side.
سليمة صفر، في الختام نشكرك ونحييك على هذه المقابلة ونتمنى لك التوفيق في حياتك ومسيرتك المهنية.
Thank you very much. شكرا. Thank you.
ونهاية المقابلة الخاصة. شكرا لكم مشاهدينا على المتابعة وإلى اللقاء.